Rich customers mock Black Waitress. Moments later, she owns the restaurant. The restaurant gleamed with luxury, crystal chandeliers, velvet chairs, the soft hum of violins in the background. Among the bustling waitstaff was a young, Black Waitress, her uniform spotless, her posture graceful, but her presence invisible to the wealthy elite. At one corner table, a group of rich customers sneered as she approached. They whispered loud enough for others to hear, mocking her, laughing at her accent, even questioning why someone like her worked in a place above her status. Her cheeks burned, but she stayed silent, holding back tears. What they didn't know was that in just a few minutes, their laughter would turn to shock when she was revealed not as their servant, but as their boss. Naomi Davis had always carried herself with quiet dignity. She worked as a waitress in one of the city's most luxurious restaurants, a place where millionaires dined and powerful deals were sealed. To most, she was just another server, polite, efficient, invisible. But Naomi was far more than she seemed. Raised by her grandmother after losing her parents young, she was taught two things: the value of hard work and the importance of never letting others define her worth. By day, she served tables. By night, she studied business, poring over textbooks and saving every penny she earned. Her dream wasn't just to survive, but to build something lasting, something that would one day silence those who looked down on her. Despite her professionalism, Naomi often faced subtle, and not so subtle, racism. Customers snapped their fingers at her, assumed she was uneducated, or treated her like she didn't belong in the opulent surroundings. She swallowed the insults, never letting them see her pain, but each encounter fueled her determination. On this particular night, the restaurant was filled with wealthy diners, including a group of influential businessmen. Naomi approached their table with her usual grace, but their eyes narrowed with disdain the moment they saw her. As Naomi set down their drinks, one of the men chuckled loudly. "I didn't know they let just anyone work here now." Another smirked. "She probably thinks serving food is her highest calling." Their companions laughed, their cruelty masked as humor. Naomi's chest tightened, but she simply smiled politely and walked away. Years of practice had taught her to keep her emotions hidden. But inside, the familiar sting of humiliation burned. They continued mocking her throughout the evening, making her repeat their orders, laughing at her tone, and even commenting on how someone like her didn't belong in a place of luxury. Other diners overheard, some looking away uncomfortably, but no one spoke up. Naomi, however, had no intention of letting their insults define her. For years, she had been working, in silence, saving and investing wisely. Few knew that Naomi had quietly become a part owner of the very restaurant she served in. When the original owner decided to retire, Naomi stepped in, purchasing the majority share with her hard-earned savings and business acumen. But she didn't flaunt it. She wanted to learn the business from the ground up, to understand every role, every struggle, every detail. That's why she still worked shifts in uniform, not out of necessity, but out of commitment. And tonight, fate had set the stage for a powerful revelation. The manager whispered to Naomi that the retiring owner was about to make a public announcement introducing the restaurant's new majority owner. Naomi nodded, her heart racing. The same men who mocked her were about to discover the truth. Moments later, the restaurant lights dimmed slightly as the owner tapped a glass to get everyone's attention. He announced his retirement with warm words, and then smiled proudly as he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce the new majority owner of this restaurant, someone who has worked harder than anyone I know. Please welcome Ms. Naomi Davis." Gasps rippled through the room. Heads turned as Naomi stepped forward, no longer holding a tray, but walking with confidence toward the front. The same men who had ridiculed her now stared in disbelief, their smug smiles frozen. Naomi looked radiant, not because of wealth or status, but because of resilience. She stood tall as applause filled the room. For a brief moment, her eyes met those of the businessmen. They shifted uncomfortably in their seats. the weight of their cruelty crashing down on them. Without saying a single word, Naomi had proven them wrong. The power dynamic had flipped entirely, and the humiliation they intended for her now rested on their shoulders. From that night forward, Naomi never had to hide her truth again. She was no longer just a waitress. She was the boss, the owner, the visionary behind the restaurant's future. Yet, she never let success harden her heart. Instead of seeking revenge, she used her position to create a culture of respect. Every employee was valued, every voice heard. She ensured no one in her restaurant would ever feel the sting of humiliation she once endured. As for the wealthy men who mocked her, their laughter was replaced with silence and shame. They continued to dine there, but never again did they treat Naomi or her staff with disrespect. The lesson had been carved into their pride. The person you look down on today might be the one you answer to tomorrow. Naomi's story became an inspiration, not just for her staff, but for countless others. She proved that dignity, perseverance, and quiet determination can shatter barriers of prejudice. And as she stood under the chandeliers, now as owner, she thought back to her grandmother's words. Don't let anyone tell you where you belong. You decide that for yourself. Her journey wasn't just about owning a restaurant. It was about reclaiming her worth and showing the world that resilience always tastes sweeter than revenge. So ask yourself, how often do we judge others without knowing their story? And what if one day the tables turned on us?